And I don't even have to use the gavel. That is awesome. Ours come, we've established a quorum. Ask the guests and visitors to please retire behind the rail. The members have taken their seat. So to give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Reverend Tuck Bartholomew, Senior Pastor of City Church of Philadelphia. He is here today as the guest of Councilman O. I would ask all members, guests, and visitors to please rise.
Thank you, Council President. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Councilman O, for the invitation. My name is Tuck Bartholomew. I'm pastor of City Church in West Philadelphia. And thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the work that you do in behalf of our city. Would you pray with me? Our Father in heaven, fount of wisdom and creator of justice, author of all things good and beautiful, we give you thanks for the great love that you have for all people in all places, and especially for the people that inhabit, create, and sustain the neighborhoods we call Philadelphia. You know our greatness, beauty, and resources. You know our struggles, sorrows, and failures. We're a city of intelligence, knowledge, wealth, imagination, creativity. But we do not experience these graces equally across all neighborhoods and households in our city. And for this purpose, you have ordained and called these men and women to roles of political and civic leadership to seek the common good of the people of Philadelphia. We ask that their lives individually and collaboratively as a council would be marked by humility, hope, wisdom, and courage. That their work would build and strengthen those values and experiences of truth, goodness, beauty, prosperity, justice, and health that have always made great cities great, a place for human thriving. Lord, you hear the cry of the poor, the marginalized, the refugees, the children of our city, the homeless, and all really that struggle to find their way in life. We ask that every person across the neighborhoods of our city would become those that use their relative power and resource for the sake of those that you both hear and love. We ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor, for those very inspiring words. We really appreciate you being here today. Council, be at ease. Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask if anyone has a cell phone or any other electronic device that makes any noise, would you please turn it off or turn it on silent? Thank you very much for your cooperation. The next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 16, 2016, and the chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 16, 2016 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second at the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 16, 2016. Stand approved. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. Next order of business is request for leaves of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, There are no requests of leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Republicans, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. This time, I would dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to recognize and I want to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to come down to witness your government in action. We hope your stay here today is a pleasurable one and also a knowledgeable one. So we really appreciate you coming down. So again, thank you very much. This time, Chair recognizes Councilman Green, who will present a resolution honoring Peirce College with James Murgiati and those accompanying him. Please join the councilman at the podium. And joining Councilman Green, we have Councilman Johnson, Councilman O. And Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is back to school, I guess, for members of council. And yesterday I experienced back to school for my son, so I think it's very fitting that we honor a very outstanding institution of higher education that's often overlooked, but does such great work in our city. And today we will be presenting this resolution to Peirce College. We're honoring Peirce College for its 150 years of providing an affordable education to working class students. Whereas Thomas May Peirce founded the Union Business College in 1865 to deliver a new kind of practical business education in the post-war years. In its first year, enrolling 550 students, many ex-Civil War soldiers who needed special teaching to land a career. And whereas, ahead of its time, in the 19th century America, Dr. Peirce also offered career-oriented education to women, with enrollment reaching 300 women by 1888, in a tradition that continues today, with Peirce College being a leading provider of part-time business education for Pennsylvania women. And
whereas Peirce College, which resides in the 2nd Councilmanic District, growth and recognition came in hand as the renamed Peirce College of Business moved to larger facilities, drawing commencement speakers like John Wanamaker, Andrew Carnegie, and several ex-presidents, including Benjamin Harrison, Grover Cleveland, Theodore Roosevelt, and William Howard Taft. And whereas Peirce moved to its current location, a state-of-the-art facility with a library, restaurant, gymnasium, showers, bowling alley, elevators, and filtered drinking water delivered to fountains every day. In 1915, the same year, a building and loan association was formed to help students invest their earnings and support their income. And whereas during World War I, special war courses were taught free of charge to armed forces members designed to meet the demand for clerical workers, and during World War II. Peirce again prepared both civilian and government workers for their roles in the operation of the modern military. And
whereas throughout the 1950s, Peirce offered specialized certificate programs to growing occupations like medical, airline, secretaries and receptionists, and whereas through the 1970s and 1980s, Peirce's position as a leader in business education was fueled by interest in practical business and technology programs, such as its newly launched computer-related courses. And whereas in the 1990s saw a need for corporations and government agencies to guarantee a quality workforce, and corporate college was opened and the business administration degree was delivered to students entirely at their respective places of employment. And
whereas in 1997, Peirce began offering a Bachelor's of Science degree for programs in business, healthcare, information technology, court reporting, and paralegal studies, the only bachelor's degree program in paralegal studies in Philadelphia to be approved by the American Bar Association. And whereas at the turn of the 21st century, Peirce became one of the first schools to offer online degrees with Peirce Online, enabling students to access quality Peirce courses through the internet. And whereas in 2013, Peirce College launched its first master's degree program, marking the latest milestone in the rich history of one of America's oldest colleges. And whereas today, Peirce College continues the tradition of excellence and their mission of helping working adults advance their careers through flexible courses offered on campus or online. Now, therefore be it.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Philadelphia that Council does honor Peirce College for its 150 years of providing an affordable education to working-class students. Resolved further that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Peirce College, evidencing the sincere admiration and respect of this legislative body. Congratulations on your anniversary.
The chair recognizes Mr. Mergiati for remarks.
On behalf of the Peirce community, I'd like to thank the councilman here today who sponsored this resolution and all the members of council for this wonderful recognition of our 150-plus years of playing a vital part in workforce development in the city of Philadelphia. We'd also like to thank all the members of council for their wonderful service, their great service to our citizens, and we would say to them, we are there, we stand at the ready to help you in any way that we can as Peirce College and as a key member of this community. As you serve the citizens, please keep us in mind as a partner. Thank you very much.
Council duties. Thank you very much. A little quiet, please. Thank you. The next order of business is communications, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. Mr. Decker, would you please read those messages?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, pursuant to Sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the Council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Bill numbers 160516, 160616, 160672, 160680, 160681, 160684, 160685, and 160617. And I am pleased to advise you that on June 28, 2016, I signed the remaining bill that was passed by Council on June 9, 2016. And then on June 16, June 20, June 22, June 23, June 28, August 4, August 24, and September 6, 2016, I signed all the bills that were passed by council at its session on June 16, 2016. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan Number 197 by striking from the City Plan Balfour Street from Ontario Street to Russell Street, and an ordinance amending Chapter 193200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Keystone Opportunity Zone, Economic Development District, and Strategic Development Area by providing for additional Keystone Opportunity Expansion Zones, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The next order of business is introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. A huge
Morning.
welcome back to our colleagues, visitors, and guests. I have here one bill offered by Councilwoman Sanchez and myself, and a resolution co-sponsored by Council members Squilla, Parker, Bass, Johnson, Jones, Green, and Blackwell.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 17100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Procurement Contracts by further providing with respect to the local bidding preference, including but not limited to provisions concerning penalties, requirements necessary for certification and recertification, and further providing for the relationship between prime contractors and subcontractors.
For the committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and congratulating the Greater Philadelphia Chapter of Tuskegee Airmen.
Today's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I introduce one bill and four resolutions, one co-sponsored by Councilwoman Gem and one co-sponsored by Councilwoman Gem and David O. And so many others co-sponsored. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending parking requirements in certain districts.
For the committee.
And a privilege resolution calling for the City Council Committee on Education to hold hearings investigating third-party funding going to independent and other charter providers and their relationship with the school district charter office.
Today's final passes calendar.
And a privilege resolution calling for the City Council Committee on Education to hold hearings on expanding the career and technical education program in the Philadelphia School District that would give students job-ready skills upon graduating from high school.
Today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution adding Mary L. Oglesby to the street sign on the block intersection of 50th Street and Arch Street.
That will be on next week's final passes calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution commending Mayor Kenny's support and affirmation of Philadelphia's status as a sanctuary city for immigrants and other cities' continued support for our immigration population, which we are privileged to have as part of our community.
And that will also be in next week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer two resolutions, one on your behalf.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
And that will be on today's final passes calendar.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees simple title to city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 37th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Hayden.
Thank you, Council President. Today I introduce one bill on your behalf and one resolution co-introduced by all members of the council and signed by all members of council.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 193200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Keystone Opportunity Zone, Economic Development District, and Strategic Development Area by providing for additional Keystone Opportunity Expansion Zones.
Refer to committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing Tuesday, September 27, 2016 as National Voter Registration Day.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning and welcome back.
Thank you,
Look forward
sir.
to a productive session.
Absolutely.
One ordinance and 3 resolutions, particularly co-sponsored by Bass, Dom, O, Reynolds Brown, Squilla, Green, Janie Blackwell, Al Tollenberger, Helen Gim, Sherelle Parker, and Councilman Johnson. They all wanted to make sure they knew they were on that one.
All right. Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance authorizing property owner to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe in 2 parts at 3847 Terrace Street.
Refer to committee.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia native Nia Ali on winning the silver medal in the women's 100-meter hurdles final at the 2016 Olympic Games.
This week's final passes calendar.
And a privileged resolution supporting the National Minority Business Development Agency and recognizing the 32nd anniversary of Philadelphia Minority Business Enterprise Development Week, held October 2nd through the 8th, 2016, to celebrate the contributions of minority business community and provide access to business development opportunities.
This week's final passes calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring the Guardian Civic League for its 60 years of service to police officers and its commitment to fostering relationships with law enforcement officers and the communities they protect and serve.
Also this week's final passes calendar. Chair now recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I have one privileged resolution sponsored by all members of council.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution recognizing September 2016 as Inmate Awareness Month.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Keona Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 1 bill on your behalf and 2 privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 16-700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Philadelphia Land Bank by requiring the city to give the land bank prior notice of certain tax lien sales, including the opportunity to acquire certain tax liens offered for sale.
And that bill will be referred to committee.
And a privileged resolution recognizing, congratulating, and honoring Luis Figueroa on being named a 2016 Premios Juventud winner.
This week's final passes calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring McDonald's USA and its 46 independent owners, operators in the city of Philadelphia for their continued dedication to the communities they serve, the people they employ, the charitable services they undertake, and the Archways to Opportunity program, which provides free English as a second language classes.
This week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. I have one privileged resolution co-sponsored by Council members Tollenberger, Squilla, Gim, Heenan, Blackwell, Dom, and Johnson.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution authorizing the committees on the disabled and persons with special needs and on aging to hold hearings regarding Pennsylvania's Community Health Choices Initiative.
That will be on this week's final passes calendar. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 privileged resolutions, one co-sponsored by yourself, council members Blackwell, Johnson, Greenlee, Reynolds Brown, Squilla, Gim, and O, and supported by all members of council, and the next co-sponsored by Gim and O.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution recognizing and congratulating Raheem Thompson for founding the Chosen League, the only sponsored high school basketball league in the country, free of charge to the players and the fans.
That will be on this week's final passes calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Sharice R. Lilly upon her retirement from the Comcast Corporation and for over 40 years of dedicated service in the city of Philadelphia.
And that will also be in this week's final passes calendar. Chair now recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. Today I have one privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution honoring and recognizing Lolly Galvin and the Philly Street Cuts Project, which offers free haircuts to people experiencing homelessness in Philadelphia.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim.
Good morning, Council President. I have one bill sponsored by Council members Jones, Parker, Quinones Sanchez, and Johnson, and one resolution co-sponsored by Council members Blackwell, O, Dom, Parker, and Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Section 17107 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contractors, Labor Management Relationships to provide that building service employees performing labor under certain building service contracts receive the prevailing wage and prevailing working conditions.
That bill will be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution urging the United States federal government to show leadership on the humanitarian crisis in Syria by resettling a greater number of Syrian refugees.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Good morning, Council President, and good morning, colleagues, and welcome back, everyone. I have a non-privileged resolution, which is co-sponsored by yourself, O'Neill, Heenan, Johnson, Greenlee, and Parker.
Thank you, Councilman.
A non-privileged resolution calling on the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to support House Bill 2233 of the 2015-16 session, currently before the Committee on Transportation, which amends Title 75 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes, further providing for speed timing devices and providing for pilot program for automated speed enforcement systems on designated highways.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. 6 bills and 1 non-privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
An ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Brown Street and Front Street, 12th Street and Tasker Street, Annan Street and 11th Street, 12th Street and Wolf Street, 11th Street and McKean Street, Jackson Street and 10th Street, and Gall Street and Dolphin Street, and an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Front Street, Amber Street, Lehigh Avenue, and Emerald Street, and an ordinance amending Section 14600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use Regulations by modifying certain standards for ground floor uses in the CMX2 and CMX 2.5 districts, and an ordinance amending Section 5 of an ordinance, Bill Number 150413, approved June 30, 2015, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Michael Butencourt of Aon Partners to construct, own, and maintain structural encroachments at 1 South Broad Street by extending the time for compliance with the authorization conditions contained therein, and an ordinance amending Section 14502 of the Philadelphia Code entitled CTR Center City Overlay District by adding a new area entitled Society Hill Area, adding additional standards concerning green roofs and making related changes, and an ordinance amending Section 10722 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use of Dumpsters to limit the locations where dumpsters may be licensed in the public right-of-way.
Those 6 bills just read by the Chief Clerk will be referred to the appropriate committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, without consideration, deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situate in the 25th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 5 bills and 3 resolutions, 2 privileged, 2 non-privileged, 1 privileged, with co-sponsors Councilman Derek Green and also Councilman Squilla, Heenan, Dom, Toggenberger, Gim, Johnson, and Blackwell.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Title IX of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Business, Trades, and Professions to add a new chapter limiting the use of restrictive covenant or usage restriction that prohibits a purchaser of property from using the property as a grocery store. And an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on Gorston Street between Gorgas Lane and Vernon Road, both sides. And an ordinance establishing a one-way regulation on Carpenter Lane from Green Street to Sherman Street westbound. And an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on Vernon Road between Anderson Street and Crittenden Street, both sides. And an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on Gorgas Lane between Anderson Street and Crittenden Street, both sides.
Those 5 bills just read by the chief clerk will be referred to the appropriate committees.
And a privilege resolution honoring the 100th anniversary of National Park Service on August 25, 2016, and recognizing Philadelphia's important role in the national park system.
And that will be on this week's final passage calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming the 1600 block of Hunting Park Avenue as James S. Hall Jr. Drive.
That will be on next week's final passage calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on the city's Department of Prisons, Office of Homeless Services, and the School District of Philadelphia to provide adequate and free feminine hygiene products to women inmates, shelter residents, and students.
And that will also be on next week's final passage calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I offer 4 privileged and 1 non-privileged resolution, co-sponsored by Council members Green, Squilla, Reynolds, Brown, Blackwell, Dom, Kim, Johnson, Tom Berger, Bass, and Quinones Sanchez. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution congratulating, recognizing, and honoring Taylor Ellis Watson for earning a gold medal in the women's 4x400 meter relay event at the 2016 Summer Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro.
This week's final passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia.
This week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring American Bible Society on the occasion of its 200th anniversary.
This week's final passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring the late James David Buddy Ryan for his service in the Korean War and his contributions to Philadelphia as an NFL coach.
This week's final passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing September 2016 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease.
And that will be on next week's final passage calendar. Thank you very much. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolution. And the next order of business is reports from committees. Chair recognizes Councilman Green for a report from the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Rules reports 6 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, will you please read that report?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Rules, to which is referred Bill number 160277, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Indiana Avenue, Palethorpe Street, Cambria Street, and 2nd Street. And Bill number 160465, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by North Front Street, West Burke Street, North 3rd Street, and West Oxford Street. And Bill number 160466, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by North 3rd Street, West Burke Street, North 6th Street, West Master Street, American Street, and Oxford Street. And Bill number 160612, entitled An Ordinance Establishing a Neighborhood Improvement District consisting of a parcel located at the northeast corner of 15th Street and Chestnut Street, commonly known as 1441 Chestnut Street, to be known as the Headquarter Hotel Neighborhood Improvement District, designating Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development to serve as the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association for the district, approving a plan for the district, including a list of proposed improvements and their estimated cost, and providing for special financing assessments to be levied on property owners within the district. And Bill number 160681, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Front Street, York Street, Howard Street, and Burke Street. And Bill number 160686, entitled An Ordinance Establishing a Neighborhood Improvement District to be known as the South 9th Street Area Business District in an area that generally includes properties located on portions of South 8th Street, South 9th Street, South 10th Street, Christian Street, Montrose Street, Carpenter Street, Washington Avenue, Ellsworth Street, East Passyunk Avenue, and certain other streets within the area depicted on the preliminary plan, and including curb market stands located along certain of those streets, designating South 9th Street Area Business District, a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation, as the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association for the district, approving a plan for the district, including a list of proposed improvements and their estimated cost, and providing for assessment fees to be levied on property owners within the district. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 160277, 160465, 160466, and 160681.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 160277, 160465, 160466, and 160681. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. Bills number 160612 and 160686 will be placed on our first reading calendar at our next session of council. That concludes our reports from committee, and we will now have consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had their first reading. Those bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second and final reading passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up for the second reading and final passage calendars today. 160585, 160525, 160551, 160398, 160460, 160610. All other resolutions and bills are being held.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes.
Also like to add 160015.
Thank you, Councilman. Before we have passage on the bills and resolutions on the final passage calendar, we will have our public comment session. The public comment session will go as follows. If you are interested in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, I ask that you please sign up at the table to my left. When your name is called, you will go to the middle of the council chambers where there's a podium and a microphone. And on that device, when the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we ask that you please adhere to the guidelines and conclude your remarks. You will be given 3 minutes to testify at this time. Mr. Decker, would you please call the name of the first witness?
There are no speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
I think we do.
Wilma Frazier. Commenting on 160519.
Morning.
Good morning, council people. My name is Wilma Frazier, and I'm here to represent Save Smith School. We have been fighting for Smith School for about 3 years now. I'm begging the council people not to close Smith School because there are a lot of people who are suffering from the transfer going to either Stanton or to Charles Barrett. We really need to open that school. We do not need any more condos. We really need the school. The area is being swamped by cars. There's no parking. People are complaining because they have to, when they come to church, they have to go around the neighborhood before they can find a place to park. We are asking council to really rethink saving Smith School. I've heard about 2 incidents where a parent got locked up because her child was sent out of the area. She had to pay $2,000 for a fine. Plus, she lost her home while she was fighting incarceration, and she had to come out and take her children to a shelter. Please rethink saving Smith School. That's all I ask.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Maria Ortiz, commenting on 160519.
Yes, I'm talking about Smith School. In our neighborhood, we have children.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Maria Ortiz.
Thank you.
I live in the Point Breeze area. I'm talking about Smith School. We need Smith School. Our children need an education. Education starts in the early stages, not in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We have plenty of children in our area that's traveling far, is being bused, as far as getting on the bus at 5:30 in the morning and not getting to school sometimes to 9:30. That's not right. We need a school at Smith School, whether it's from kindergarten, preschool to 4th, or preschool to 12th. Our neighborhood is overlapping with condos and high-priced homes. People are coming in with children and moving back out, and I have asked them why, because there's a few on my block. And the lady said, there's no school. I asked her, where did she locate to? She said, Ardmore. I said, why? She said, because there's a school. It's imperative that we have a school where we live so our children can get home and neighbors can watch them get into the front door. I love my community and I love where we at. I feel sorry for the newcomers that's just having babies and they're talking about moving out. We talk about saving the community. How are we going to save the community if we don't have no school? So they're showing me education is not the key, but you're selling education to profit over condos and houses, and that's not fair to our community.
Thank you for your testimony, ma'am.
Teresa McCormick, commenting on 160519.
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
My name is Teresa McCormick, and I'm from the Point Breeze community. We are asking you to save Smith School. What is so unique about Point Breeze is the community, new and old, came together to go to court to fight to save Smith School. We won our case. We thank Councilman Johnson, who came out and testified on our behalf. But now we're to the next stage. We're asking that all of the politicians that represents our area, including City Council and yourself, President Clark, to come with us to help us open up Smith School. We have 3 companies who are willing to do so. We are asking you to help us to sit down with the Superintendent Height and not to sell it to Concordia for market rate housing. Schools, not condos. We're asking you again, with agreement of you, to help us to open up Smith School. Point Breeze is not from a foreign country where we have nothing there. We have no supermarket, we have no good schools, we have no affordable housing. We're asking you to please help us, the first stage, to give us a school. Because if we don't have a school, you don't have a good community. If you don't educate our kids, then that means that you don't have a good community. We request that this meeting is, education is not for sale. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, ma'am.
There are no other speakers in the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment session for today. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passes calendar. And okay, thank you. Mr. Decker, before we do that, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Keone Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I have some personal matters to attend to, and I wanted to be recorded as voting aye on all boards, bills and resolutions, as I will be leaving the chamber.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The record shall reflect that. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 160585.
A resolution appointing Supreme Dow to the Board of Directors for the Germantown Special Services District.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the resolution.
It's got a second. It's been moved in properly second that resolution 160585 be withdrawn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and resolution 160585 is withdrawn. Mr. Decker, please read title 160525.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code by revising requirements for preliminary plat approval.
Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer an amendment to Bill number 160525, which has been circulated to all members. But I also would like at this time to also thank the Kenny administration, both their legislative staff and the law department really worked hard with the Planning Commission to come up with language that was satisfactory to everyone and accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in the first place.
Thank you.
It's not easy. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded on the amendment of 160525. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 160525 is amended. It will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 160551.
An ordinance amending Section 10-1002 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sheriff's Fees by revising fees, commissions, and reimbursements for various functions and services performed by the sheriff and making technical changes.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gimm. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Keone Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present and voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 160398.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 21st Street, Oxford Street, 20th Street, Master Street, and Ridge Avenue.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gimm. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Keone Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 160460.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Diamond Street, Franklin Street, Burke Street, and 9th Street.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gimm. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 160-610.
An ordinance authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the Sinking Fund Commission for the payment of such bonds, authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with issuance of the bonds, and certain other actions.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 160-015.
An ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Finance, Taxes, and Collections, to add a chapter requiring businesses located in certain areas of the city, or that receive tax or other subsidies from the city, to provide certain economic development data to the city, and requiring the publication by the city of such data.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Yes, thank you very much, Council President. I'm requesting an amendment. A copy of the amendments has been circulated to all members of council. With that, I move to amend Bill number 160015.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment to 160-015 be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 160-015 has been amended. It will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and congratulating the Greater Philadelphia chapter of Tuskegee Airmen, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
A resolution calling for the City Council Committee on Education to hold hearings investigating third-party funding going to independent and other charter providers and their relationship with the school district charter office, specifically concerning independent charter schools operated by minorities, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Move for the adoption. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution calling for the City Council Committee on Education to hold hearings on expanding the career and technical education program in the Philadelphia School District that would give students job-ready skills upon graduating from high school and provide alternatives for those seeking to work after high school, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, introduced by Councilman Greenlee.
Green? Sorry, you say Green? Greenlee? Oh, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing Tuesday, September 27, 2016 as National Voter Registration Day, introduced by Councilman Heenan.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia native Nia Ali on winning the silver medal in the women's 100-meter hurdles final at the 2016 Olympic Games, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
With great national pride, I call for the adoption of this resolution.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? And with great national pride, it is adopted. Thank you.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing the 32nd anniversary of Philadelphia Minority Enterprise Development Week, held October 2nd through the 8th, 2016, to celebrate the contributions of the minority business community and provide access to business development opportunities, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
With equal pride, I call for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring the Guardian Civic League in its 60 years of service to police officers and its commitment to fostering relationships with law enforcement officers and the communities they protect and serve. Introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair, one more time.
With
Recognize
pride for the
Councilman Jones.
folks in blue, I call for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that is enthusiastically adopted.
And a resolution recognizing September 2016 as Inmate Awareness Month, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing, congratulating, and honoring Luis Figueroa on being named a 2000 Premios Juventud winner, introduced by Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
On behalf of Councilman Sanchez, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring McDonald's USA and its 46 independent owners, operators in the city of Philadelphia for their continued dedication to the communities they serve, the people they employ, the charitable services they undertake, and the Archways to Opportunity program, which provides free English as a second language classes, a pathway to an accredited high school diploma, and tuition for college, introduced by Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Green.
On behalf of Councilwoman Sanchez, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the committees on the disabled and persons with special needs and on aging to hold hearings regarding Pennsylvania's Community Health Choices Initiative, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and congratulating Raheem Thompson for founding the Chosen League, the only sponsored high school basketball league in the country, free of charge to the players and the fans, introduced by Councilwoman Parker.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Sharice R. Lilly upon the her retirement from Comcast Corporation and for over 40 years of dedicated service to the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Parker.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing Lolly Galvin and the Philly Street Cuts Project, which offers free haircuts to people experiencing homelessness in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution acknowledging the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service on August 25, 2016, and recognizing Philadelphia's important role in the national park system, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution congratulating, recognizing, and honoring Taylor Ellis Watson for earning a gold medal in the women's 4x400 meter relay event at the 2016 Summer Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
With pride is equal to that of Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and with pride, it is adopted. Thank you.
And a resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia and celebrating the 15th annual ProAct Recovery Walks to promote recovery and work to end the stigma surrounding drug and alcohol addiction, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair, one more time, recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? The ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring American Bible Society on the occasion of its 200th anniversary, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring the late James David Buddy Ryan for his service in the Korean War and his contributions to Philadelphia as an NFL coach, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you again. I move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing September 2016 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease. Introduced by Councilman O.
One more time. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our calendar. Any speeches on the part of the minority? And the chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I raise an issue, and I believe it is being corrected as we sit here, but unfortunately, it has not been corrected for over a year, and that is that this council body passed legislation creating a tax credit for employers who hire returning veterans in the city of Philadelphia. That was amended to increase to $5,000 for a full-time employee per year for 3 years. It was brought to my attention last year that the city's website provided outdated information which stated that tax credit ended in 2014. It provided an outdated worksheet and application form. And unfortunately, that means that employers cannot process the application for the tax credit. Now, there is no mention of this tax credit on the current revenue website, and therefore nobody can apply for this tax credit. I did raise this issue several times. I believe it is now being addressed, but I am letting people know that the city of Philadelphia does have a tax credit for employers who hire returning veterans, and that tax credit is in effect from June 2014 to June 2020. And so I do urge the administration to correct that as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Speeches on the part of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. 32 years ago, we started celebrating nationally Minority Enterprise Development Week. And it's been an ongoing celebration in the city of Philadelphia, and we are, in the first week of October, going to celebrate it again. But more recently in these chambers, it was recognized the importance of small business to the local economy. It started with the beverage tax debate last session, and I think it was Councilwoman Parker raised the issue of the lack of ownership by local businesses on the commercial corridors that would be impacted by the sugary drinks tax. And thinking about it, I thought about it, and over those 32 years, it is true. The local ownership, whether it's replaced by national chains or whether mom and pop shops just have gone a different direction, local ownership has decreased on our corridors. It was again raised yesterday by, I believe, Councilman Green, talking about a strategy that the city of Philadelphia needed to have to really address this issue, to make sure that people who live here, who benefit by living here, should also benefit in the consumption of goods and services in the city of Philadelphia. By way of impact, small businesses represent 98% of all new growth in America. And in Pennsylvania, I believe we have 98.2% of the employment that is done by small businesses other than government, other than big universities. It is the small businessman that makes this happen. But in particular in our neighborhoods, at the micro level, when we think about the impact of Denise's Bakery on North 22nd Street and how she is a fixture of that community, or whether you talk about the McDonald's that was, they introduced a resolution recognizing the independent owners and what John Dawkins has meant to individual communities throughout Philadelphia, or whether you talk about Marta Diaz, who used to have a big butcher shop, and she lived above it for dozens and dozens of years. That kind of merchant, that kind of entrepreneur on the 100 commercial corridors is the glue of most communities. And I'm calling on the Commerce Department in conjunction with us to develop a attraction and ownership strategy locally. This is something that Wilson Good and I have talked about even before either one of us was elected at PCDC, but we want to reinvigorate that kind of thought process as we deliberate in our budget. So to that end, Councilwoman Parker and myself are co-sponsoring a small business workshop. It's called Ready, Set, and Grow on October 3rd. And it's going to be at the local, Pipeline, right across the street. But it's going to be with the intention of figuring it out how we can get more Philadelphians to benefit from the local economy and keep that synergy of money in the community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Good point. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and good morning still to all of our colleagues. We're moving very quickly today. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania will determine if children across this Commonwealth deserve their day in court. Our state system of funding our public schools is seriously broken. And next week, we will have, for the first time in more than a decade, a chance to hear a different way of looking at how we fund public education. Local communities have too often been forced to pick up what has not been funded at the state level. This body in particular has delivered funding to the Philadelphia Public Schools by more than $400 million in the last 5 years. But it's not sustainable. And this is a state that ranks at the bottom of the nation in terms of the funding gap between the poorest school districts and the wealthiest school districts. We don't have to go outside of Pennsylvania to understand, or outside of Philadelphia to understand what that looks like. It means that we had 77 students in a gym class at Mastbaum. It means that we had hundreds of teacher vacancies last year. We've done a huge lift at the local level, and we've gone as far as we can. And it's time for Harrisburg to step up. It's time for us to have a serious conversation about what it looks like and what it takes to fund our schools. But ultimately, it's going to come through a mandate that's constitutionally based, that's delivered with force and emphasis. And we're going to look forward to having that day in court. But beforehand, I want to thank all my colleagues, and particularly Councilwoman Blackwell, Council members Dom, Green, Heenan, Quinones, Sanchez, Reynolds, Brown, Squilla, and O, who are going to come together and sponsor a sing-in concert for our schools on Monday, the 12th. We welcome everybody out to Dilworth from 2 to 6 p.m. We're taking it over. We've got marching bands, step teams. They're all coming in. We've even got somebody from Erie coming in all the way over here. We welcome any and all colleagues to come and say a few words to talk about what it means to have a voice on school funding and seeking justice for our young people all across the Commonwealth, not only just for Philadelphia, but for all children. And then on Tuesday, we welcome you here in City Hall in the Supreme Court to hear a case that's been a long time coming. So thank you very much, Council President. Thank you very much to my colleagues, too.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. I want to also thank you for the hearing yesterday on what I would view as the financial health of the city. I personally loved it. And I think it's such an important issue because without a healthy city, we all have nothing. And I think what this hearing pointed out to us was that cities of our size that have a population base of 500,000 to 4 million, we, according to our 3 rating services, are at the lowest level of ratings. And it's because of fund balance and pensions. And I also want to commend Matt Stitt and Bob. They did a great job with putting together information for us for this hearing. But I want to really call to the fact that this is such an important issue for the future of our city, not today, but just in 5, 10, and 15 years. This is the long term we need to tackle. We need to have a goal and get this fixed. And two big areas, which I've been talking about and everyone's talking about, is collecting our delinquent taxes across the board and fixing OPA, especially in the commercial assessments. Those two areas, we believe, is in excess of $100 million that could come to the city every year. So tackling those is crucial, but most important is keeping our bond rating where it is or raising it and not letting it deteriorate. That's a real focus that I appreciate your calling that hearing yesterday, because I think that's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your dogged persistence on this very important issue. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to invite everyone out for our Responsible Business Operations Bill signing, which is going to be held next Monday, September 12th at 4 p.m. at 5708 Germantown Avenue. And anyone who knows that location, which is Germantown and Shelton, the business that was there, which is now shuttered, was a notorious, what we call stop and go, which was closed by the Liquor Control Board. And we're having our business bill signing there because we want folks to know that there are new tools out there that are available, so that if you have a nuisance business in your neighborhood, there are things that can be done. And so if you have a business that has illegal consumption of alcoholic beverages outside of the property, illegal drug activity, litter on the sidewalks, unlawful street or sidewalk obstruction, gambling, loitering, public urination, or defecation, that these are all behaviors that will come under fire. And some people would say, well, I've never seen businesses like that. People have said to me, where is this kind of thing happening? Well, there it is. It's happening all over the city of Philadelphia, but typically in certain neighborhoods. And so we want to attack the problem at the root. We want to let folks know that if you operate a business, you cannot stay inside and say, there's nothing I can do about what's happening outside. I'm responsible for what happens outside on the sidewalk of my home, and they're responsible for what happens outside on the sidewalk of their business. And so we want folks to know that we're not interested in being in any sort of way against the businesses that operate in our neighborhood, that provide the important goods and services that we need, but there has to be a way of operating, and we don't just want businesses to deliver a product, we want them to deliver an experience. And so we'd love to work with those who are interested in working with us, but the bill signing will be next Monday, September 12th at 4 p.m., and again at 5708 Germantown Avenue, which is Germantown and Shelton. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for your good work. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we look towards the 32nd anniversary of Philadelphia Med Week, I want to join the chorus of council members Jones, Parker, and Green, and remind all of us that a strategic approach is important. And just today, in keeping with that goal, Councilwoman Sanchez and I introduced a bill that hopefully will be successful in not only incentivizing but developing sound criteria for creating a nexus for local businesses and then offering them some level of tax credit towards that end. More will be held on that bill when it moves towards committee. And as a friendly reminder for Med Week, a number of workshops are taking place. My focus is on the rebuild and making sure we do that in a way that's acceptable to this legislative body. So I'm asking members to please put a pin in Tuesday, October the 4th, where we will be once again at the Naval Shipyard, and we will take a serious dive and laser beam focus on how MBEs and WBEs can actively, authentically participate in the rebuild. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. And it feels good to be back in these council chambers today, so I welcome everybody back as well. Just want to invite everybody out tomorrow to my 12th annual Peace Not Guns Memorial Basketball Game. That's where members of the Point Breeze Youth Development Basketball League will play members of the Philadelphia Police Department, all in the effort of building the relationships between our law enforcement community and members of the Point Breeze community. But also, we take this event to highlight the issue of youth gun violence that's taking place here in the city of Philadelphia. Throughout the summer, we have seen several little children being shot as well as on a daily basis, young men being murdered. And so we use this type of event to highlight that issue, but I also look forward to continue working with you, Council President, after you go after lost and stolen guns and making that a priority, not only in this city, but also this state, and hopefully those who are elected on the federal level will begin to take on will begin to champion this issue on the federal level, on the state level, because at the end of the day, we will never continue to progressively move this city forward if the city isn't safe. And so tomorrow, 6 o'clock, Shoe Playground, I know Councilman Jones is one of my celebrity judges who will judge the actual slam dunk contest. So I thank him for coming out and participating with several other individuals. But for the most part, I invite all of my colleagues to come out. I know Councilwoman Parker, who has a birthday Friday evening. I want to put out there on the spot. She's probably like going on 30 or something like that. But nevertheless, she also expressed some interest. And I invite everybody to come on out. But at the end of the day, that event will highlight, again, building relationships between the law enforcement community as well as highlighting the issue of youth gun violence. At 6 p.m., Shoe Playground. This is my 12th year doing it. We've been very consistent on our mission of peace, not guns. Thank you very much, Council President.
Absolutely, Councilman. Thank you for your continued good work. You're always a man of the people in your community. Appreciate that so much. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I want to echo the comments of Councilman Johnson referencing welcoming everyone back. I want to commend my fellow colleagues in council being proactive and addressing a lot of the issues that impact our city. In that same vein, I want to remind people that tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the Public Health and Human Services Committee, chaired by Councilman Bass, we'll be having hearings on the impact of medical marijuana as it comes to the city of Philadelphia. Like some of the initiatives that other members of council are working on, we need to be more proactive on issues as they come to impact the city. The state right now is currently drafting regulations on medical marijuana. About half of the states in the union have medical marijuana. That was a conversation I had during the summer at the National League of Cities Conference. And so as opposed to waiting and being reactive and waiting to see how the regulation will impact Philadelphia, tomorrow's the first step in having a conversation regarding this issue so we can be proactive in reference to this issue and also start to inform the public what type of impact medical marijuana may have in the city of Philadelphia. So I welcome all those in the audience and those who may be listening to come out to the hearing tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker. And happy birthday.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, for the record, say a hearty thanks to our colleague, Councilman Jones, for his leadership with Med Week. I thank you for the very kind invitation to allow me to participate and join with you this year. Your kindness doesn't go unnoticed because it's an important issue, but you've been at it a lot longer than I. So I just needed to state that for the record. I also, Council President, wanted to echo your sentiments in regards to the Peace Not Guns basketball game. Councilman Johnson has been at this long before he had the term honorable before his name, and I wanted to just note that for the record. And although, Councilman, I will not be able to attend, I will have some community organizers from my district there, and they will be watching Jones judge how you structured it, and we will be trying to duplicate what you've done in your district in the ninth. So I just needed to state that for the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before I adjourn, I think there's a rule that I'm not supposed to make speeches from here. So I think this is a little different, though. I just want to say, promote something that's very important to me because it is the 10th anniversary of Strawberry Mansion Day. And as you all know, I grew up, born and raised in Strawberry Mansion. And I got to tell you, we are going to have some of the best old school bands out there. So it will be the battle of the bands. Come on out, hear some good music, some good food, and it's a great experience. And I already invited all my colleagues. So come on out, a whole lot of dogs, hot dogs, burgers, chicken, ice cream, whatever. It's going to be there. But more importantly, that music is going to be awesome. So I just wanted to say that Saturday, Boxers Trail Run starts at 8 o'clock, so if anybody wants to do a 5K, It's a pretty interesting race. In the old days, I used to do it, but I'm way beyond that. So I will simply watch and put the medal on the winner. But please come out 8 to 10 on Saturday, September the 10th. We're going to have a blast out there. So with that, I want to thank you all very much. Welcome back to the council chambers, and Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Yes, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 15th, 2016 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. It's been moved and second. Council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 15th, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Let's vote.